Hey, you ever wonder why the things that you really don't want to come true keep coming true? You ever wonder why you have so many things that is in your head and you're worried about this, you're worried about that, and then it seems like the things you fear really ends up happening? Well, there's a reason that actually takes place. I want to, just really walk you through some. Let's go to my whiteboard for a minute. And I want you to understand, if you ever think about the characteristics of a movie, right? And when you think about a movie, there are many different elements, right, to a movie, right? A movie has a plot, right? We have actors, right? We've got scenes, right? All these different things. There's things, different, different elements of like someone who is going to be a villain, right? And this kind of goes with the actors and heroes and all kinds of things. You've got different sub stories. You got a story and, you got different sub stories, and the list goes on and on, right? There's so many things we could talk about when you think about movies. One of the greatest things, though, that is so powerful is we have a writer, right? And someone actually wrote the movie. Someone actually determined everything that was going to happen about the movie. And what's so amazing about the writer of a movie, and think about us, the difference between a writer and someone that is actually a viewer of the movie, right? So let's look at that for a minute. When you think about on this end, we have, we've got our writer here, who is the brain behind this, right? They had the idea, right? And they begin to write this movie, and they kind of know what's going to happen. We got the writer side, right? And then we got this other side, though, right? And here's the person that is really beginning to watch the movie. They're in deep thought, thinking about, what is actually going to take place in this movie, right? And they're got questions about what exactly is going to take place. And so when you think about the questions that we have so the writers versus the watcher, right? Now, this is all important. When you think about the writer versus the watcher, I want you to keep in mind, the writer has an advantage. The thing about the writer is that the writer, they actually know, right? They know what's going to happen. So think about that. Someone sitting there watching a movie, and there's a character that's hanging on a bridge, and it seems like they're about to fall off that bridge, and they're hanging on for dear life. And it's a character you built a relationship with throughout the movie, and the writer's sitting there smiling because they know what's going to happen, right? They're going to be saved, and someone's going to fly in and save them, right? The watcher is really, in anxiety because the watcher, on the other hand, right? They don't know what's going to happen. So when you don't know what's going to happen, you have more, you're very, engaged. You're kind of thinking about, well, what is going to happen? You're thinking about all the options. Sometimes there's suspense and there's drama and there's all these things. And this is why movies work, because the watcher doesn't know what's going to happen, whereas the writer does know what's going to happen, right? So this is very important. And so we think about these different elements. Now, with all of this in mind, I want you to really get something. Let's look at a little bit at the brain. And when we think about the brain, right? Something I want you to understand, that we've got this human brain that I want you to understand is one of the most genius things in the whole creation that we see on the planet today. Because of its power and the creative power, everything we see today started in someone's brain in terms of the imagination of, different businesses, ideas, technology, and yes, even movies, right? People who wrote a whole storyline that became a series of toys and movies and cartoons and so many other things started in someone's brain. Now, the challenge is when we use that creative power individually, And we start to tell ourselves stories and create movies about our life that are more serious than something that you do for entertainment. When I start to tell myself stories and create movies about why I can or cannot succeed, it's not based on fact. It's not based on reality. It's based on my own perception as well as my own fears. So when I have different perceptions as well as fears, right, that go in, what comes out is different imaginations and ideas. Now, the challenge with all of this is, here's the critical thing. We come out with all these ideas and all these imaginations based on our own perceptions, our own fears, things that we've come through that feeds our minds, so to speak. And out of this comes ideas about what's next, imaginations about what's going to happen. And we're thinking about what's going to happen if I go and try to build this friendship, if I go and try to do this in my business, if I try to change this thing about my health. If I try to take this action that's going to put me out there, I got to speak tomorrow in front of an audience, and you're starting to think about, so what do? You create a movie and think about it. You actually can create a movie when we talk about imagination. So you can create your own movie, but think about this. In this movie, you are the writer, right? The actor. You create the scenes, right? And then you end up watching it unfold, right? And the key is, sometimes we don't realize the reason we keep watching things unfold a certain way is because of the movie that we're writing in our head. Now, the thing about this is, just like the writer that already knew what was going to happen, right? When the movie was going on, the person was hanging off the bridge. You become a person that behaves in a way as if you already know what's going to happen, even though it did not have to happen that way. But it's happening that way because in your mind, you've already created the movie. And this is why some people's behavior is already doomed before they start, because they keep creating a movie in their head about how things are supposed to go. And then they behave as the writer, the person who already knows what's going to happen. So they live their life in the anxiety of the things that they think are going to be the worst things that are going to happen. And because of that, they end up becoming what they continually think about, right? As Henry Ford once said, whether you think you will or you won't, whether you think it is or it isn't, you're right. Because when you give all of your focus to something, then you'll end up beginning to do that. We talk about this all the time with the whole think first, then feel, right? Then we do. But it all starts here. So the challenge is, if I keep creating the wrong screenplay in my mind, and I'm running the trailer first of what's going to happen, and then I'm, carrying out the whole movie, and she doesn't like me, and he's going to not, support me, and this won't work when I try this in my business, and I don't speak well, the audience is going to laugh at me, I'm not able to, I'm not as smart as this person, I can't read as fast as her over there. All these limitations. Or we're over extreme and we create overconfidence, right? I'm because of maybe things we've been through again, some of our fears of not being the best or not being the one that gets the accolades, or fearing that we won't be as good or as great as someone else. So then we start overcompensating, right? That I am better than this, and I am going to do this, and everything's going to go this way, and I'm going to get a standing ovation, and everyone's going to notice me when I do this. And when I go over there and talk to them, they're going to just right away like me and accept everything I have to say. And then when that thing doesn't happen, right? So here's the key. So we start off as the writer, right? And then we end up in a situation where we end up, I'm going to put it this way, we end up with reality, right, becoming a reality check, right? And we instantly go from the writer to becoming the watcher. When we realize, right, we can't control the future. So we make a decision of whether or not we're going to have more anxiety or more anticipation, thinking about the good that could happen, right? So we make a decision. We're going to have more anxiety or more anticipation. But what happens is when you realize that you can't control the future, but you spend so much time writing a movie that you can't control, when reality begins to hit you, right? When it really begins to hit you, then you move over to realizing I am just a watcher in some instances, because there's some things I cannot control. There are some things I cannot change. There's some things I cannot fix. And so what we want to do is we want to stop making movies and realize that we can have a certain amount of confidence and anticipate the things that can go right. We can get prepared for whatever's next. And we can get ourselves, in a position to do our best in whatever we do, to get ready for success, to get ready for that conversation, to get ready for that thing we have to do in our business, in our career, in our relationship. Get ready for that thing that will help us be more healthy. Prepare ourselves, right? But after that, we don't make a whole movie about it. We respond to the reality, and we begin to then do the things that are required to make adjustments so that we can have the life that we want. Now, it's okay to think positive about our future, but be careful about making a movie when you know you can't control the beginning or the end, but you can control you and the effort that you make. I'm Michael Lee Parker. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Always remember to keep on being the true CEO. Take charge because you have to be in action, expand because we have to keep on growing, and always overcome the obstacles to stop you being your best self. Leave some comments and let me know if you're all about now starting to think differently so that you can really, really, truly walk in the life that you want. Until next time, I'll see you soon.